What is going on, guys? This is Skyhound, also known as Geek Archivist Xavier Pierce. And I did finish watching that amazing live stream for Honkai Star Rail in terms of their music concert, considering it is the first anniversary of the game itself. Now, it took me a while to actually, you know, make notes and also do the timestamps in terms of what came up at what point. I will say this that for those of you guys who were also keeping track in terms of what came up at what point, I have mad respect for you guys. I myself was also doing the same thing as I was watching and making note in terms of timestamps, roughly when a certain theme came up or when a certain moment came up. Now, I want to be clear that when it comes to you know putting the whole thing together, I think when I was actually watching the commercial the first time, there were a few indicators in terms of what themes were likely to be playing. Because let's be clear here, the game started roughly last year, and we only got to three places: Yarilo 6, Jansho Lofu, and Penacony. Those are the only three places. Now, in terms of the order itself, what doesn't surprise me is that in terms of the music and what parts play at certain parts in terms of the battle themes and the like, I will get to that in due time. But that being said, I do want to point out a few visual hints. I'm going to be going back to the commercial that was promoting this live stream, so bear with me for a moment. Okay, so sorry for that. I just had to find the screenshot that I did. So this is from the commercial that was uploaded yesterday. Obviously, I know Kafka's theme was going to be one of the ones that I was going to be playing. Now, I will say that I only got a few of the screenshots because there was a lot of references for Lofu and Penacony, not so much for Bellabog. I'm just saying there was only one bit that we got, and I think most of us already know who it was, the trash can. So I'll get to that part in a bit. But before I forget, if you guys like, what you see in here, hit the like and subscribe button. But anyway, let me just get to the main points here that I'm trying to cover before I get to the meat and potatoes. So Kafka, obviously the theme for her, it was going to be playing on there. I know that. Then we also got a few other references here. Again, Lofu, we got the currency. And then obviously Jinglu. For those of you guys who got her, good for you. I will say that my initial reaction to watching it was like so funny because I recall watching on Twitter some people were going on about the commercial, and someone pointed out that Staley actually was going for the mature ladies, and I couldn't help but chime in and give some evidence, Jinglu being one. But then going back to Kafka a bit, she was just trying on a dress, and she did a bit of a selfie, also showing another outfit. And then on the phone, you see Stelly actually reacting to it, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, it looks great!" And then she comes up with like all these other suggestions, and you see Kafka smiling. She's like, "I guess I got her attention." Then again, we get to this part right here. We also get the male trailblazer in the trash can. That, unfortunately, from my observation, I would say was the only reference from Bellabog that we ever got, considering that each of the other two, besides Bellabog and Yorello 6, UFO, they also had their own trash cans. Penacony also had their own trash cans. But it wouldn't surprise me if they also had the regular trash can on there. And technically, they did, if you knew where to look. But that part being said, those were the visual references that I could draw from there. Again, they had more references on Penacony and Lofu. And just to reiterate my point once more, there is one more bit I was going to be pointing out. Give me a second. This. The dressing room of Robin, obviously, Kalis is there, and we see a lot of the Penacony merch there that was going to be given out to the audience in terms of at least how they're doing it on there, as well as Clucky being one of the mascots or the mascot of Penacony. Excuse me. But with that part out of the way, let's get to the meat and potatoes. So at the 5-minute 44 mark, we get, Kafka's theme being played as well as the classical music. That was actually at the very start of the game when the Void Rangers were about to attack the space station. For those of you guys who remember, this was at the start. And obviously, when we see Kafka's, playing along as a hologram on her violin, we also get Kafka's theme also playing in there. And what I like about this one is that it does sort of help reinforce what us Trailblazers remember when we started the game. Then at the 9-minute 33 mark, we see that March 7 is also in on it because they played her theme. And then as a hologram, obviously, she's actually interacting, with the audience. There's a part that's so hilarious where as she doesn't realize she has the remote for the to supposedly change the lights on the sticks, we hear Pom Pom in the background going, March, I'm trying to look for the remote for the lights. Have you seen it by any chance? And she's like, the remote, it wasn't me. Now, I will say that I know it was done over in China. Most of the stuff was in Chinese, so thankfully there is subtitles. I was watching obviously it in English, and again it had subtitles on there. From there, we get the track, which most would argue is Himiko's theme, because you're still on the space station. That's referred to as Interstellar Journey. Then around the 1709 mark, we get the continuation of that, or at least the 17-minute 9 mark. I apologize in advance here. I'm mixing up my information. 1709 is roughly the track for Himiko and the space station. I apologize. But from there, we get the theme for Silver Wolf around the 20-minute mark, 25 seconds exact. And what I could catch on that was you hear the techno bit theme, and then I hear like a few bits, and I'm like, oh, wait a second. There's only one character I know that has a techno beat to it, and obviously it was Silverwolf. But right after that is when things get a little interesting because I knew that Belobog was coming up, but the way how they transition into it is a little strange. Because what came after, I saw Numby, and I knew Topaz. You're kidding me. They're actually going with Topaz on this one. But they did. That theme started at the 23-minute 20-second mark. Then from there, around the 25-minute 22-second mark of the concert, we get the fight music with regards to the Void Rangers, as well as the boss fight music for when you're on the space station after you're woken up by March and Dong Hung. Then, obviously, from there, we get the departure through the Astro Express, that track, Take the Journey, at the 29-minute 14 mark. Before I go any further, I will say this, that the way how they transition from one theme to the next, and then they go roughly in the order that the game was played. I actually like how they transition from the background themes of where it fits for each location to the themes that was used for the characters when they were going to be announced and released, from the trailers for whatever character you were trying to pull for. But before they get to Yarilo 6, there is also a quick intermission in which we get a bit of the gotcha music because, again, this was staged over in China. They had a little raffle going on, and thankfully, when they were showing the format of who was going to begin what, there was one row for the section in the stadium. Then you had the row within that section, and then the last part is obviously the seat. Whoever was the lucky one would get that prize. Then from there we get towards Belobog, and then the music starts roughly around the 34-minute mark. And as it's playing, it shows some parts of the city of Belobog as well as the museum. That was actually one of the events in the game as we were waiting for the next destination, if you will. Then from there, we transition around 37 minutes, 24 seconds in towards the underworld. And one of the obvious indicators is that they had a few people inside, with the trash can costume, if you will. Then we get to the theme for Selly around the 38-minute 25 mark. And then from there, we get towards one that I think is going to be um, mistranslated, misrepresented, and people are going to get details wrong. I am talking about the song that's referred to as Detonation Arrives at Dawn. While that is, in fact, in Chinese and it is a rap song, one might argue that with regards to the lyrics itself, yes, we get translations for that. One could argue that it is probably in reference to Serval. Others can argue that it's in reference to Selly. However, my observation of this whole thing is that as I was listening to the song and reading the lyrics at the same time, to me, I would say that it is more in reference to the citizens of Underworld, as in fact they were actually, still according to the gameplay and story, they were um, suppressed, and they were separate after a disaster actually befell Belobog. It is after, of course, once we get to, I'm going to jump a little bit ahead here, when we after we fight Cocolia and we find out what she did and we win, then we get to the transition, of transfer power to the next one. But with that being said, around the 40-minute mark is where we transition towards the harsh wilderness of Belobog. They do show a little bit of that in the on the screen. From there, we go towards the mines around the underworld area again. In addition, I also did hear, I don't recall where, but they likely slipped in a bit of the battle theme when we come across Clara and Svarog when we meet them. But what I did know is that as we're going from one bit to the next, eventually it was going to hit the boss song for Wildfire, which is when we fight against Cochlea for sure. That happens around the 46-minute mark, approximately, give or take. From there, we then transition into Jancho Lofu, which is the second destination. That happens around the 52-minute 50-second mark, give or take. Now, before I go on any further, I do want to point out there are some of us who were actually trying to document and timestamp in terms of what happened, where, and when. So if you guys spot your comment, do know I'm just trying to cite, where some of this stuff was. I have my own timestamps. You guys have your own. But I will say this, I think most of us were pretty damn close in terms of where some of these moments were. I'm just trying to give you guys credit. That's all I'm doing. I'm not criticizing. I'm just trying to give credit where credit is due. So if you do see yours, just letting you guys know. So yeah, as I said earlier, these were just some of the screenshots that I found in terms of like when they actually started playing certain themes, certain moments within the concert itself. So bear with me for a bit. Here's another one. I know it's a little bit small, so bear with me for a sec. Here we go. Here's another one. And then there's a third that I did find. Here. So again, most of us were pretty damn close in terms of the track itself as to when. Now, I will say that I have roughly a different timestamp compared to some of these other ones that I did find. But again, I will say we were close. That's all I'm saying. With that being said, let's get back to the concert analysis and my general reaction. The fact they started with Dan Hung's Lumine's theme, I'm not going to even try to pronounce that title anymore, but when I saw the water rising up and then it started to get higher and then I'm hearing particular notes, I was like, you're kidding me. You guys are not holding back your punches. Seriously? And then lo and behold, around the 55-minute, 15-second mark, they actually played. And I'm like, just that one, listening to that whole thing by itself just gives me chills every time. And then around the 59-minute 13 mark, we get into the city of Luofu itself. Around the 1 hour, 2-minute mark is when things really get good for some people. If you guys tried polling for Jinglu or Blade, this is roughly where it happens. And one of the indicators that I could tell that they were doing Jinglu, even though I never, polled her, was we see two female performers with long swords. One of them was wearing white, the other one was wearing black. As soon as I saw the color comparisons, I was like, I know who this is. I know who this is. And even they were playing on the background in terms of, Jinglu actually, doing her thing. And it even showed the clip of her, unleashing her ultimate. And I won't lie, that was like freaking awesome. For those of you guys who pulled for either one of those two, Jinglu or Blade, you're lucky. But Blade's theme doesn't kick in until around the 1 hour, 3-minute mark and 44 seconds. Another indicator, obviously, is when towards the end of the theme, as it's playing, we see the red spider lily flower. That's his, I guess you could say, signature in that case. But yeah, when I saw the performance of that one and then, the music playing on top of that, I was like, damn, this is good. And kudos to the actor portraying, Blade in terms of like his personality, like how he moves, acts, and reacts, so to speak. They did a good job on that. And then we get to the 1 hour, 6-minute mark and 2 seconds. We get roughly the battle theme of when you're exploring around Luofu. And then it gets a little bit of fun. Around the 1 hour, 8-minute mark, 16 seconds, we get the reference for Little Gui or Guanfen, the 4-star fire type. For those of us who got to polar, I definitely did. And, she's definitely a lot of fun. They also do a little bit of dating that little dragon because the little indicators that those dragons that you sometimes see at those Chinese celebration festivals. That's basically what dating is. So, in a sense, they were doing a bit of both. It's in reference to Grianfen in general, but we also get a bit of dating as well. Around the 1 hour, 11-minute mark and 54 seconds, we get Hoho, as well as Shippo in Japanese, the tail, the little specter tail. And what's really cute and cool at the same time is that they had, Shippo, they did like a little puppet of Shippo, and it's on a stick. And then obviously they also project him on the screen. I was like, that little fella is just snarky as heck. Snarky little fella, but I love him. And then we get the slowly transition into the eventual fight with Fantilla. And they show on the screen, obviously, General Jingwang approaching the area where the fight is about to take place. Now, for those of us who actually fought Fantilla, I am going to say this right now. Even though I didn't listen to the theme as much, I will say this: that fight was bonkers. Like flipping bonkers. I am not joking. Like the first bit of the fight was rough enough, even though you had the general with you for this fight. And yet, as it got to the second round and then the third round, I don't recall, I don't have the timestamp for when the second part comes up, but I do recall, I made note of it. The third round for this boss fight started around the 1 hour, 20-minute, 34-second mark. And then after that ends, we get another intermission. And turns out there's a couple of artists that actually had, some original songs. One of them turns out at the 1 hour, 26-minute mark, 2 seconds, a song called Funny Bone. And that actually is in reference to Sampo, for those who like that character. But it's pretty interesting, though, when I was listening to it, that it was actually in reference to, his personality, why he is what he is, and how the way he acts, and all of that. Excuse me. And then around the 1 hour, 29-minute, 31-second mark, we get another song called To the Faint Star. Now, I know most were going to be just like, waiting until it ends because I know all of us were looking forward to the Pennyconey section. But I decided to stick around, listen to the song, and then also read the lyrics as it was going on. What was interesting from my observation, I would say that it kind of made me wonder, is it in reference to the Trailblazer or someone else that we don't know or we have seen but haven't had much interaction with? That's what I found interesting about that particular track. It does have a bit of mystery to it because most people probably don't know who it is. Maybe the ones in China, those Trailblazers over in China that play it, likely know who it's referring to. They might, they may not. But I do know this, that those of us who don't speak the language and, are playing the game are probably not paying attention long enough. But I decided to listen to it for the heck of it. And again, I'm just giving my general thoughts and my reaction towards that song. I find it pretty good. Do I think I know who it refers to? Maybe, maybe not. But with that being said, we eventually do get into Penacony, finally. And That indication starts around the 1 hour, 33-minute mark, 55 seconds. We see Clocky, introducing himself and, welcoming, the fellow Trailblazers. The entrance part starts in around that point, but the actual theme itself, I would probably consider it like the Glad Soda moment in this case. That theme actually doesn't kick in until 1 hour, 36 minutes, and 31 seconds into the concert. Now, with regards to Robin, for those of you guys who are going to be pulling for her, I actually made note as to when she comes up. And, Chevy, quick shout out to her. She did an awesome job. And if you guys watched that announcement trailer for that single of Robin's, of course, which is going to be, again, releasing on May 9th, in case you're wondering, the moment she comes in is around the 1 hour, 38-minute mark and 11 seconds on the dot. You can look it up yourself. It is roughly around there. Eventually, we get to the iconic song that I know most would say is in reference to Firefly / Hotaru. Now, before I do get into that, I will also put in the description below my little gameplay of that moment. And I do like how it transitions into that when that song is playing. I definitely had my own mixed feelings of it, though. I definitely choked up as I was listening to it, numerous times. But what doesn't surprise me, of course, is the fact that some of us, or actually, I'll just say this, most of us had certain parts of the song correct because we were all doing this by ear. However, there is one cosplay music video that I did find regarding this song. And as I was listening very, very carefully, part of my brain was going, yes, you're doing it by ear, but what if you have a certain section of the song that's wrong, and it turns out if they played, for a live stream, for a concert, that is actually the case. And in addition, that's exactly the exact same lyrics that comes out on the release. Frankly, I wasn't going to be that surprised. Lo and behold, when the song plays around 1 hour, 38 minutes, and 55 seconds, I wonder, before I get started on that, on the analysis, the song itself, If I Can Stop One Heart from Breaking, for those of you guys who don't know, I did also look it up on the wiki. Oddly enough, that is in reference to a poem from the female poet Emily Dickinson. If you guys poke around somewhere, it is definitely on there. But this title does reference that. Now, to get into the analysis of the song itself in terms of symbolism, in terms of who it's actually referring to, most of us would reference that it is talking about Firefly because of the moment when she was sharing that moment of her little secret spot with the Trailblazer. Now, looking back, you can say that it does relate to those who have a terminal illness and have suffered from it and even lost a loved one from that. I myself have gone through it. Most of us have gone through it. I mean, Hotaru / Firefly herself was explaining, she has a debilitating condition, and she's only reason why she got into Penacony in the first place is to not have to deal with that condition that she has. And to go even further with regards to the lyrics itself, I had to type it as I was watching and listening to the song itself. But give me 1 second. If you take a look here at where it starts, birds are born with no shackles, then what fetters my fate? Blown away the white petals leave me trapped in the cage. That first stanza it's very clear that it does reference to Robin, but at the same time, if you really think about it, birds that are free are not shackled. So that's what that first line is stating. Then what fetters my fate? This case is in reference to those that are actually that are suffering from sickness, from illness. That question is what that roughly refers to. And then in this case, as it goes on where it says blown away the white petals, leave me trapped in the cage, while it does in a way is referencing Robin and the fact that, celebrities who are famous, they sometimes don't have as much freedom. They're always under the microscope being watched. I mean, even I myself what have come across this type of stuff, when I'm watching, either the entertainment news or even watching TV shows or anime that covers this. This that last excuse me, that last bit, leave me trapped in the cage, that in this case is, while on one hand, again, this does refer to Robin, the flip side of the coin, you can also apply this first stanza, logically speaking, to Firefly slash Hotaru, because if you look at stanzas two, the lines 2 and 4, and I apologize if I'm going on this little literature analysis bit, but it is needed. You can see that, Robin is wanting to like break free from the cage that she is in, like not just, you know, this persona that she has and the fact that she's also very good at singing, but with Firefly's case, the cage that she is in is basically the disease that is holding her back. So when it comes to that question, then what fetters my fate? If you look at it from Firefly's lens, is like, why am I, the one having to deal with this? And she herself feels trapped, and wants to break free from that cage. And unfortunately, she, as the next line goes out, the endless isolation can wear down my illusion. Someday I'll make a dream unchained. This, in this case, when you look at it from Hotaru's eyes, yes, she is struggling with that disease, but her optimism in terms of being able to like be free of it, at least, even though she knows she's in a dream, that she's able to try and like live the life that she wanted to live, that she's unable to because of said disease. Now, when it gets to the chorus, this is the part where, as I was watching and making notes for this song before they even got this one officially released, that the one that we hear, because it was done by ear, FYI, I knew some parts we got right and some parts we got wrong. Now, in addition to that, for those of you guys who got to attend the Penacony celebration, where you also had the artist that did Wildfire, that also did White Knight, as well as Chevy herself, who did the titular song. I'm just saying it's on there for those of you guys who ever got a chance to go. You guys have evidence that you were there. When I was listening to the lyrics, it was really rough in terms of trying to get, what was what. That being said, when I was watching a particular cosplayer doing this exact same song, part of me was going in the back of my head, what if? What if what I originally thought of one of the lines was actually correct? because the part that we thought we heard was um, to chase the primal light. But what I heard from the cosplaying music video of this song was I heard bright moonlight. And as it turns out, with this live stream, this is where, of course, I did, as exactly as it was. I also made the changes on the lyrics for my little gameplay upload. I'll put it in the description below. As you can see here, let my heart bravely spread the wings, soaring past the night to trace the bright moonlight. And then is this other part where it got a little bit tricky because, again, we were doing this by ear. So we got this part right. Let the clouds heal me of the stings. Is the last part that was a little bit tricky. It said, gently wipe the sorrow off my life. I dreamed, not I dreamed with an ED. So overall, I will say that we got most of it right, save for the chorus. That's about it. Well, most of it, except it's the second part that came after. This one right here is where it got really trippy. Because we got this part right here where it says, what is meant by miracle? A word, sorry, I'm tripping here. A word outside my days. So we got that part right. It's this part that was tough. We thought it said repeat bubbles, but turns out we were wrong again. Once again, repeat warbles. So that part was a little tricky because, again, we're doing this by ear. All of us were doing it by ear. But overall, most of the lyrics on down, we got it correct. So I already copy and pasted that lyrics onto my pinned comment for that gameplay. Again, I'll put in the link in the description below. I will say this, that the song was definitely touching, and when I was listening to it the first time, I won't lie, I started choking up, and then after what happened with Hotaru, oh my gosh, I was a total mess after that point. But that song is just so freaking good. But oh, a major tearjerker. I kid you not. I'll just say it right now. It was a freaking tearjerker. But it's so good. Anyway, enough about that. Now we get to around the 1 hour 42-minute mark, 22 seconds. We get the second song, as it was also mentioned in the announcement promo trailer. If you're paying attention, the song is called Sway to My Beat in Cosmos. Now, again, as I'm watching, I was making notes. I was also typing down the lyrics for this one. So I will also put the lyrics for that song in a pinned comment. So that one was definitely fun. I know that one's going to be on play, on repeat a lot. Then we get to around 1 hour, 45 minutes, 38 seconds, the introduction towards the Hanu theme. Obviously, for those of you guys who got to Penacony and played through that part, know what it is. What I like about that one is it does give that classic noir feeling for those who are into like those old, black and white mystery, gangster films. I like that reference from there. And then we get a really cool surprise around the 1 hour 44, 1 hour 47 minute 44 seconds mark. Clocky mentions a certain someone, and we find out they had someone cosplay as Sam. And then the theme starts playing. If you want the exact moment, it was around 1 hour 47 minutes in, 0.58 seconds. That is when it starts. Now, that fight, I'll just say it straight up. Holy smokes! That was one hell of a fight. I mean, the guy gave me a run for my money, but damn, the damage output that he gave on my team. I mean, I know I had Acheron, and then I forgot who else I also had, but I know she was part of my team. But that fight, holy smokes! I had to keep healing. I had to keep trying to figure out how to adjust my attacks. Pull no punches for a robot who wasn't pulling no punches. Whoosh. But then after that cool moment, we get the track Monodrama, aka Sparkle's theme. At the 1 hour, 50-minute mark and 7 seconds, oh my gosh. I mean, we can pretty much state that the parallel equivalent to this character is, in terms of pop culture, Harley Quinn. But that when I hear the whistling, I'm just like, oh boy, here we go. That sneaky little mischievous minx. I mean, she's good. Her character is good. Don't get me wrong, though. But let's be clear. Let's be clear. The girl's nuts. She is freaking nuts. I can't state it enough. But the theme is just so freaking hauntingly beautiful at the same time. I mean, I'm actually pretty glad I actually pulled her, but she's actually doing more of the work of one of the other previous characters. But damn, they did a good job on that. I won't lie about that. And then we get close towards the end. Obviously, they closed out the Penacony bit with White Knight, which was obviously what the start of you know the announcement to Penacony being the next place to go. Now, I will admit that the song is actually good, and while it is catchy, I do recall looking at the trailer, there was a lot of story hints. Now, there are a few that I found that are really good in terms of doing the analysis. I will put those in the link in the description below if you want to take a look into those. But after that, we get towards the final bit. No surprise, it is the music for when we're logging into the game. At around the 1 hour, 58-minute mark and 9 seconds, as that is playing, obviously they show the different, characters that got released over time, as well as Acheron, who was, one of the polls that some of us were going for. I definitely managed to get her. And I won't lie, trying to build some of these characters, it really takes a lot. So again, with the whole farming aspect and gathering of items, rinse and repeat. That's how it's going to be, for this game. I myself am gonna have to keep doing the same thing, trying to adjust on some of my builds and the like until I get it to a certain point. But with that being said, overall, this was a really great live stream. And again, kudos to the team at Hoyoverse, and also congrats to the Honkai Star Rail team on their first anniversary. So bravo, guys, gals, bravo. Overall, I will say that, the way how they transition from one to the next, it was really well done, almost seamless. And some of the themes, though, that really caught my attention, the Kafka one was obviously great, but the one that I really found fun in this case was the one with March 7, as well as the little bit with Huo Huo and Gyeonfen. And then, of course, the biggest highlight on Penacony was, Chevy's performance as Robin. And we get to hear two of the tracks for the upcoming single that's going to be coming out on the 9th. Overall, I will say if I had to rate this, definitely on a subjective level, a 10 out of 10 for sure. Now, In terms of the polls, am I going to try and pull for Robin? For sure, I definitely will. As much as I want Boot Hill, I'm like, nah, I'll just go through the story part itself because I know what's coming up next after this. So I'm going to be trying to save up as much as I can. So, for those of you guys, whoever you're going to try and pull on the next update, I wish you guys the best of luck. With that being said, this has been Skyhound, also known as Geek Archivist Xavier Pierce. Stay safe, stay sane, and as always, stay humble. And I'll be seeing you again when logging in on Penacony. Peace.